training, job skills training, resume training, helping people find work, helping kids do their research for their homeworks, a number of very important functions. There will be a meeting room in the facility that can be used for adult education, both day and night. They will also provide after-school programs, library programs, senior citizens programs, a wide variety of support for the community. We have learned firsthand that in tough economic times, the library plays a very important and central role to the lives of many in our community. We have noticed a sizable increase in our patronage since the recession started here a year and a half or so ago. We are here tonight to let you know what our progress is, to reiterate how appreciative we are of the support you've already shown, and hope for your continued support. We are very proud of what we're doing in Dawn, and think the Dawn project is a very good indication of why the county is considered an all-American city. With that, I thank you.
Thank you. I'm Glenn Reynolds. I met with y'all several months back. I'm the architect on the library. I just wanted to come tonight and give you a little update on where we are. The plans at this point are about 95% complete. Progress setup prints has been delivered to the county, and the county building department is going through them. The site plan from Webb & Associates has been completed, has been through the process with the county, and is ready as part of the package. We have currently the specifications that are finished, and we're ready at this point to talk about what the next step is. And the next step is to ask y'all's permission to put this library out for bids. What this means to y'all is it's not a commitment at this point to actually fund the library. What we're asking for is the right to take the library, put it out for bids, and to receive bids. At that time, our idea would be to bring back those bids with a list of possible alternates to put this project within a budget that the county can afford to build. At that point, if we need to phase the project, we have ideas of ways to phase the projects to get the project under construction. There's numerous ways to put this together. One of the things that we know is that the economics today is a very positive in the bid arena. And to put the project off at a length of time, it would actually impinge on more dollars in the future. So we're encouraged at this point, due to our recent bid of several library projects within this region. We know the bidders are out there. We know the bidders are very interested in this project. We continue to have phone calls asking when the project will be available. That is a very positive statement, and we are able to feel like that this would actually benefit the county. Tonight, what I'd like to do is also sort of play on what Al had mentioned is the library is not just 5,300 square feet. It's a place that there's a separate computer lab in this building. It also has a separate meeting room in this building. Both of these facilities are very much needed for the community, and they're the things that bring people to the library. Library is not only a depository of books today, but it's also an area where the community can be proud and meetings can be held. We went through the situation that we've got the site worked out. It has been a very positive move. The site is very much usable. We've got it worked out. We have field dirt available on adjacent site currently waiting to be put on the site. So that's another item that's going to help with dollars. The dollars is being expended previously for that. It's already been budgeted into the project. So again, I think at this point, I'd like to be able to answer any question you got. I do have a set of plans and specs here. As I said, a progress set of prints has been given to the county. We're going to work with the county to get any issues that they have worked out. We would like to have permission to go out for bids. Our idea would be to put the project out to bids in the next few weeks once we get the issues worked out from a county standpoint, gets bids in early January. And the reason for that is the bid market is very solid in terms of being able to get in early and give enough time for the bids to be held to be able to work out the situation of being able to figure out what we can do with the monies that we have to go forth with the library. I will tell you that in years past, I've had libraries that we've done this on, and we've been able to work with the contractors and push the bids off if we needed to buy more time to get part of the building constructed. So again, encourage the board to go forth with allowing us to go forth with receiving bids. It does not commit this county to any dollars at this time. We would bring back a positive bid that we can sit down with the board and discuss how best to proceed with the project. And if you've got any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Mr. Popovich, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Mr. Thomas?
I think I'm fine. Thank you.
Mr. Seeley?
I don't know when best to ask questions. At this point, I was,
Take a shot and go ahead and answer.
my concern in going to bid right now is just getting all these deficiencies that we have in the plans completed before we go to bid, so we don't end up with a lot of change orders. Because I've got a page and a half of issues from the building official.
And that's very normal when it goes to the building officials. Those issues will be resolved with no issues before we put the plans out.
Right, I'd like to see us get all of these things resolved so that we're with a clean set of plans, so that, and I'll let Mr. Rozelle speak, but I know that change orders in the past have really caused some issues with projects and driven up expense. So my only concern is getting all these resolved and getting the building official comfortable with where we are in the plan process before we go to bid.
Yeah, I understand that. I think, as I said, the set of plans that were delivered to the county is a progress set of prints. And the idea would be to make sure all those issues from the county standpoint have been resolved to their approval before we put it out for bids. Once those are approved, then we would go out to bid from that standpoint. From the standpoint of change orders, well, I'm just receiving the list now, so.
I saw you referenced in the email, so I figured you either had seen them or you'd gotten them late. But these are my concerns. At this point, I'd like to see these resolved and the building official comfortable that we're there before we go to bid.
Yeah, what I can tell you is the items that are on here are very minimal. And what I can also tell you is that you can check the record of our firm. We're less than 1/10 of 1% on change orders on our projects. So
I have no issue.
that's something I'm very proud of as an architect. I will say this, we will get these issues resolved and make sure they're resolved. I really don't see anything here that's any of magnitude that we can't work with the county and get these issues resolved.
Those are my questions, Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman.
Mr. Rozelle?
Mr. Chairman, I think, I did look at the punch list. I hear what Mr. Seeley says, and I certainly appreciate that. But I do, as the architect has said, the list is really not that bad. I think if you can get it done, I really don't see a problem why we can't go ahead and list the RFP. And let's see what the market will bear, and hopefully it will bring us back some good news. There's time, I hear a lot of folks say, and even King George recently put out RFP on their animal shelter, and surprisingly came back. It was quite a bit lower than they really expected. So I think it'd be a good opportunity for us to put that out there and see what comes back.
And I certainly have no problem in putting the RFP out and to the bidding community. The only thing I would ask that we be careful of, and I guess I'm asking the citizens of that area to be careful of, is the fact if it does come back, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to have the money to pay for it. I don't think that anybody has said this is not a good project. I just think that everybody understands that the economic conditions at this point for Caroline County is no better than it is for the bidders that are out there trying to get work. So just because it goes out to bid and just because we get a favorable bid back, I still don't believe that's going to absolutely say that the county can move ahead with the project. We very well may not be able to move ahead with the project, even having received favorable bids. We're told all the time by our financial consultants as to what we can borrow and what we cannot borrow. So again, I have no problem in putting it out to the RFP out for bids and see what we do get. But I don't want anyone to think because we go through that process, then that's automatically saying we're going to have to fund it when the bids come back. And even though they are favorable, we still may not be able to fund it. Mr. Popowitz.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to make one comment. Mr. Roselle did come to me with this, and one of the things that we discussed was the fact that there may be some alternative funding out there for this project. And so I've asked Economic Development to go ahead and look into those options.
Good.
And we're hoping that we'll have some of those, if this were to go out for RFP, at least in place. But in order to do some of those, we will need to have a cost for the project, or at least a preliminary cost for the project. And so I'm kind of encouraging us to go ahead and at least go forward with the bid process so we know what we're dealing with.
I don't think there's a question of members on this board wanting to go ahead with the bidding process. That is something that I think all five of us agree to that we need to go through with. Mr. Thomas?
Yeah, I just want to ask a question. I didn't mean to cut you
Go ahead.
off.
No.
Mr. Reynolds, let me just ask you a couple of questions. We've budgeted $1 million in our capital improvement plan.
Yes.
Do you, in your professional opinion, feel that you can have a project of this size and scope come in around that dollar figure?
I think it'll be significantly less than that.
Okay.
And significantly to me is got hundreds of thousands of dollars attached to it.
Thank you, because I always have a problem with defining words. So significant to you means a couple of $100,000. Okay. The second question is, we have actually, according to the records we've spent $235,000 already, theoretically, or it says
You've appropriated that, I think, to the funds that are currently
right.
still available. Some of them are still available, correct.
Is there any of that $235,000 left, or?
As well as I know, it is. The $235,000, we still have parts of that money. Yes.
She says yes?
Yes. The idea would be at the time that we do come back with the bids and everything, fundraising is still going on every day right now. And even though we're the architects on the project, we're also actively involved in trying to help figure out ways to raise money. And the idea is to bring back a report on how much dollars has been spent, what's remaining there, what else money has been raised of this 94,000, hit it to 100,000, and be able to give you a report on that also.
Okay, so we basically have, the county's invested almost $250,000 on $1 million project. So we're basically 25% there in terms of the whole funding, right?
I would say that that's a good way to look at it.
Okay. And you just said that you've done some fundraising and you have how much money?
They've got 94,000. I would expect it to be at $100,000 here shortly.
Okay, so you've got close to 100,000.
So you've got $350,000 basically in a kitty at this point, of which engineering fees and some site work and things like that have been paid. The $30,000 to move the dirt on the site has been paid out of that money also.
Okay, and your significant savings means I only have to come up with $800,000 more dollars.
Hopefully less.
Okay. And we're not going to know that until you go out to bid. So just
That's
to make
correct.
sure I'm clear,
Yeah.
you're going to go out for bid because normally, and I've seen the punch list too, for an architectural firm, one of the punch list items was include a water fountain. I'm sure there's a water fountain in that plan somewhere.
There is.
Okay. So it seems kind of simple that you're going to be able to take care of the punch list while you're going out through the RFP, but I'm sure Mr. Seeley's going to match the RFP up when it comes back to make sure you got everything in the punch list done already so there's no change orders. Okay?
That won't be a problem.
We all feel good about that. Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right, I think that there's no question about going over the
I didn't say
RFP.
punch list. I knew you would.
But even after what has been said, we budgeted $1 million, that's true, but we do not have the $1 million in the bank to pay for it. So we've got to go ahead and borrow the money, whatever the amount of money is, we're going to have to borrow in order to build the building. So let us not mislead anybody to think that that's going to be an easy task either. It's my understanding, and correct me if I'm incorrect, Ms. Brooks, but including the the fundraising that has been done, there's still about $193,000 available in this account for Dawn Library. And I'm assuming all of that could be used toward the building. There's no other charges due by Mr. Reynolds or anyone else that would eat up any of that money. Yeah, okay. So, again, we'll look at the numbers and we'll see what happens, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't, sort of simply put.
Are
All right, does the
all
board
those,
want to make a motion to go ahead and approve the, Mr. Rozelle? Go ahead.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to make a motion. Before I do that, I do want to, because I've been reminded by some good friends of mine that there's been a lot invested already in soil work and, of course, architect work. And, you know, we have, I don't know how many hundreds and thousands of tons of soil that was paid to be delivered, you know, to the property. And it's, you know, to the library board, I mean, after we had the groundbreaking and, you know, they kind of took that as, you know, all right, let's go. And they went and they started spending and investing money and raising money. And I understand, you know, their feelings and their thoughts, because it's exactly what has happened. And I know they understand that, you know, the economy has changed.
Right.
And, but I just continue to ask for the board support where we can, and if we can find it, we're gonna do all we can do to make it happen. And, you know, we'll take it kind of one day at a time at this point.
Absolutely.
And I certainly would appreciate the board's continued support on that. But with that being said, I'd like to make a motion that we allow the library board to proceed with the RFP for the Dawn Library.
I'm gonna second Mr. Rozelle's motion,
right.
but is it just the 5 folks here that came for the library?
No.
If
Can the
everybody
people-
supports the library, can you have them stand, Mr.
Can everybody
Sure.
stand up that's here supporting the library? We got a few more.
I don't think it's a question as to who supports the library. I understand the support for the library. I support the library. But having to pay for the library is a different story.
We can get you to
And
stand up.
that's the problem. And again, I have no problem as far as support of the library, and I recognize that, and I pretty much knew everybody here was a support of the library that I know of. All right, Mr. Roselle made the motion. Mr. Thomas seconded the motion to allow the Dawn Library Group to go ahead and put the RFP out for bids. Discussion on the motion.
I just want to reiterate that I just want to make sure this punch list gets straight with our building official so that there's no disconnects.
Absolutely. I can tell you right now that these will be answered along with many more answers other than these that need to be answered before it goes out.
Okay.
Further discussion. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion is carried. Good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item is reports from supervisor liaisons. We just had this a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to forego this, and we'll have it at the next meeting in January. Appointments, Recreation Advisory Committee.
No, I'm gonna have that in January, Mr.
All right.
Chairman.
Rappahannock Area Alcohol Safety Action Program.
Mr. Chairman, it looks like the individual who is coming off the board is willing to stay.
Right.
And if there's no issue with anybody,
I have no issue with it.
I would go ahead and make a motion that we approve
Danny Carter?
Mr. Danny Carter.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Seeler, seconded by Mr. Rozelle. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion is carried. Board of Assessors?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Art Terry as my representative on the Board of Assessors.
Let me ask you a question. The list that we received in the board packet had Board of Equalization at the top. Was that the members of the Board of Equalization, or was it the Board of Assessors that we had 5 years ago?
Should be Board of Assessors. Board of Equalization's wrong. We're talking about the Board of Assessors.
I'm sorry?
Wrong headline.
Board of Assessors.
Okay, so that is the members of the,
And the members are correct. Yes.
Yeah.
okay. Art
Board of
Terry,
Assessors.
any other board members have appointments at this point? Make them all one time?
Added to rail.
You got added Terrell, okay? All right, we have Art Terry representing the Port Royal District, Addie Terrell, representing the Reedy Church District. Is there a motion
That's
to
the
appoint?
motion.
Second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Rozell, seconded by Mr. Popowitz. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay, and the motion is carried. We really need them by the 13th, is that, or the 12th, the next board meeting. We really need to have our
Okay.
appointments ready by the next board meeting. All right. Consent agenda, is there an item on the consent agenda the board member wishes to pull? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Popowitz, seconded by Mr. Seeley. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion is carried. Board will take a 20-minute recess. We'll reconvene the Board of Supervisors meeting. The next item on the agenda is public comments. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to address the board on any issue at all that is not related to a public hearing that will be held later in the meeting, please come forward, state your name and your voting district. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the board on any issue not related to a public hearing to be heard later on in the meeting? One last call. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board on any issue not related to a public hearing? Hearing and seeing no comments, the public comment period is closed. The next item is public hearings, and the first public hearing this evening is public hearing on the draft of 2030 Caroline County Comprehensive Plan. Mr. Fincham.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your first public hearing tonight is a public hearing to consider the adoption of the 2030 Comprehensive Plan. We've actually discussed this over the course of the last 4 to 5 months, so and covered a lot of material during that time, so I'm not going to go into great detail about the process. But over the course of the last few months, the board has reviewed the draft 2030 Comprehensive Plan and the 2030 Land Use Map in preparation for tonight's public hearing. The current plan, the 2006 to 2026 Comprehensive Plan, was actually updated and adopted by the board in March of 2008, which primarily included the update to the Ladysmith Area Plan. That process culminated a series of comprehensive plan updates that centered primarily around incorporating the area plans into the then current comprehensive plans and making any necessary corrections to ensure that those area plans were consistent with the rest of the plan. However, those planning processes really did not look at the entire comprehensive plan and any needed changes to the entire document. Shortly after the update of the 2026 plan, staff began the process of reviewing the entire comprehensive plan to clean up any outdated data, to make the document more user-friendly, and actually to try to improve the overall document and make it more than a planning document, but a document that anybody could look at and really get a good feel for the county and for the board, the citizens of the county, and really who we are and what we represent. So with this update to the plan, I think we've tried to go beyond this being just a normal planning document and try to give some insight into Caroline County. As part of this update, we have added a couple of new chapters. We have added a chapter on housing and a chapter on economic development and tourism, which is an important aspect of our planning process. And at the same time, we've made some significant updates to some of the other chapters, particularly in the area of transportation, where new code regulations require us to identify all planned improvements and give cost estimates for those. So we significantly update our transportation chapter to include not only road improvements, but pedestrian facilities, bicycle facilities, as well as the planned multimodal transportation facility in Carmel Church. We also, for the first time, I believe, conducted an inventory of all county government services, either provided directly by Caroline County or through subsidiary agencies, as well as the facilities for those services. And that was included in our community facilities chapter. We did not make any significant changes to the land use plan. We felt that the area planning processes had actually addressed many of the land use issues in the land use chapter. However, we did include discussions and updates of the proposed Sparta Agricultural Preserve area, as well as included some language concerning conservation development, or what's known as cluster subdivisions, as those are required by state law. We also did tweak the boundary of the Ladysmith area plan just a little bit. In the northeastern part of that planning area, there are some existing industrial uses that were not actually part of the area plan, and we did include those in the Ladysmith growth area. With that, I'll answer any questions that the board may have. I know you've had the plan for several months now and had some chance to look at that, and I'll open it up to any questions that you may have.
Any questions of Mr. Venture before we open the public hearing? Mr. Popowitz?
I think in light of the public overlay thing, I just want to make sure that it doesn't change anything in the comprehensive plan. If you would take a look at that, please.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Mr. Thomas?
No, I just want to make it clear, the only sub-area plans that are in the comprehensive plan we have are Ladysmith, Carmel Church, Bowling Green, Milford, and Dawn.
And Port Royal.
And Port Royal. The original Port Royal plan, not the latest one that Mr. Popowitz is working on.
Yes, sir. That's actually a separate process. That's the Woodford, Guinea, Cedon, Childsburg planning process.
Okay. And again, that's not part of this particular process we're looking at now.
That's correct.
Thank you, sir.
There is also a Skinker's Neck growth area, which has not really been subject to a sub-area planning process, but was designated back in 1994 after Haymount was approved.
That's the Haymount growth plan, okay.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mr. Seeley?
Not at this time.
Mr. Rozelle? All right, Mr. Fincham, thank you. We will now declare the public hearing open for the draft 2030 Caroline County Comprehensive Plan. If you wish to come and speak either in favor of or in opposition to this draft plan, please come forward, state your name and your voting district. Hello.
Good evening, board members. I'm Cheryl Finucane, Madison County Voting District, and I was a member of the Ladysmith Area Community Planning Advisory Committee that drafted the Ladysmith Area Plan, and I was a member of the Frederick Area MPO,
Right.
Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee that drafted that bicycle and pedestrian plan, and I'm also a board member of the directors of the Virginia Bicycling Federation. And I would like to commend the county's planning staff and others that have been involved in redrafting the county plan for their efforts to set forth a plan that will use the tools available to link land use and transportation. I think, as we all know, that that's becoming more and more important. And I also want to commend them for adopting the portions of the George Washington Regional Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan that were relevant to Caroline County. The need to intentionally make active transportation, specifically biking and walking, attractive options to residents of the county has clearly been appreciated by the county staff, and I thank them for that recognition. That action, in addition to the recognition of the need for mass transit is going to spare the county of many of the transportation headaches and challenges faced by our neighbors to both the north and the south. So I very much support the adoption of those portions of the plan. I encourage the Board of Supervisors to, once the plan is approved, to not let development or financial pressures dissuade you from meeting those active transportation goals that are set forth in the plan, and encourage you and the county planners to work closely with bicycling and pedestrian experts to determine the best means for supporting active transportation for each individual project. There is one little piece of the plan that I hope might be, as time goes on, reconsidered, and that's the intersection of Route 1, Jeff Davis Highway, and Ladysmith Road. The Ladysmith Area Planning Committee and the Ladysmith Area Plan intentionally ignored VDOT's recommendation to make Jefferson Davis Highway Route 1 3 lanes in that area, with the desire to keep a village develop a village atmosphere to that area. And we really felt at that time that widening that road to 3 lanes going each way would detract from that village atmosphere. I can't speak for the whole committee as to whether or not they've changed their minds at this point, but I can speak for myself that, I really think trying to look at ways to maintain that as 2 lanes going each way would be more beneficial. But with that said, as I said, I commend the planning, the staff for their work on this. I also encourage you to adopt and accept the goals set forth in the plan for identification and setting aside scenic resources, open space resources for preservation of the rural characteristics of the county, and the goals of developing a master plan for parks and recreation in order to resist developmental pressures to fill in every nook and cranny in the county as time goes on. So I thank the county staff for their work, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board, either in favor of or in opposition to the draft plan?
Hello, Carol
Ms.
Thomas Horton in Port Royal District. And I too would also like to thank the supervisors and the staff for a commendable job on this new comprehensive plan. I know a lot of you hold community meetings and get out there and show concern for the citizens, and you've got a lot of public input. So we really appreciate that. Caroline is a county that a lot of citizens believe has taken a different route. We don't do things just because neighboring localities are doing that. We are more of a leader than a follower. And so I think the plan in general that you've put together and that staff's put together is a good comprehensive plan. It's centralized the growth near Ladysmith and Carmel Church, which is in the center of the county. Therefore, it's much more likely this is going to provide jobs for our citizens rather than sticking it off in one of the edges of the county where another locality, may draw employment in. And also in that area, it's easy access, when we've got that centralized growth. Railroad tracks are available, the transportation center, you've got I-95, and so this is going to be beneficial to our citizens. This plan also protects the waterways. We've got 3 major rivers, the Rappahannock, of course the Pamunkey to the south, and the Mattaponi running right through the middle. And we've had a lot of water issues, and this protects our water supply. I know you've been reading, quite a lot about how water is going to become a very important commodity. And those of you who read the Old Farmer's Almanac, next year is supposed to be kind of a dry year. So protecting our water supply is very important to the citizens. It also protects a certain amount of land for our food supply, which we may need in a national emergency. You always have to have a certain balance where you have some farmland where you can grow your own food if it's necessary, that it cannot be shipped in from far away. Protects historic sites, and a plan like this that has a balance. Like the lady said before me, is not trying to fill in every little nook and cranny of the county with some type of growth. A plan that has such good balance as this plan is what we call real progress. And I got a lot of calls and emails from concerned citizens about it, and, you know, asking questions about it. We also worked with the planning office to make sure that we knew what was going on. And we'd like to commend you on this plan, and we look forward to maintaining this plan with you for our county. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Horton. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to this draft plan? Good evening.
Good evening, Phil Sheridan, the Bowling Green District. First of all, I want to commend staff for Caroline County for an excellent job on the comprehensive plan. It's clear to me after evaluating the work today that a tremendous amount of work was involved in creating this document, a lot of dedicated effort and a job well done. I do want to say that. One comment I have and a suggestion, since we work at Meadowview with rare, threatened, and endangered species in Virginia, is that while this was briefly addressed in Section 8, they talk about resource-sensitive areas, and they talk about the corridor, and in a generic sense, endangered species there. I would advocate that more emphasis should be placed on rare, threatened, and endangered species in Caroline County, and that there is some integration with the Department of Conservation and Recreation and their database. DCR has a great database of the location throughout Virginia of rare RTE species. Many of these locations, of course, are on state land, but a number of these locations are on private land that, for one reason or another, have gotten into the state database, and you have access to it. And that is not in the comprehensive plan. I think you might find it very useful as decision makers to actually know where we have species of concern. In many cases in our work protecting rare species, it's usually after the fact that county government is going, if we'd only known. And by that time, some plan has already evolved, damage has been done to a sensitive wetland, and we've lost rare species. And we're actually studying this problem right now in Virginia. We call it Extinction Watch, where we're literally mapping the extinction of plants, rare plants in Virginia. And so from a due diligence standpoint, if you had that information, it would help guide you in your development plans for the county. And so obviously from our standpoint, that's something we're interested in, and you might consider as you revise the comprehensive plan. One other comment I would like to make, on page 8.2 of the growth management plan, it states, however, growth cannot be controlled or limited. Now, I don't see what that's based on. Now, I think the plan is well written. However, that statement by itself, I really don't think belongs in a comprehensive plan. The next statement is development will continue in Caroline County. Maybe it won't. So again, I understand you want to have development. However, actually the basis of a comprehensive plan is to control growth. So how can you have a statement that says you can't control growth? So just my 2 cents on that, guys. Okay? Otherwise, thank you very much. Good job.
Thank you.
Look forward to talking to you again. Okay?
Appreciate your comments.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board, either in favor of or in opposition to this draft plan? Is there anyone else who would like to address the board in opposition or in favor of this draft 2030 comprehensive plan? One last call. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the board, either in favor of or in opposition to the draft Caroline County comprehensive plan? Hearing no further comments, the public hearing is declared closed. Board have comments, questions? Mr. Popowitz?
No, sir.
Mr. Thomas?
No, sir.
Mr. Seeley?
Mr. Chairman, I just have a few issues that I need to discuss with staff about some overlay
Okay.
issues. I'm not sure they're problems. I just want to make sure that I understand them.
Okay. Mr. Rozelle? My only comment would be to Mr. Fincham. in relationship to the comments we just heard. We need to probably go back and look at some of those areas that we just heard about concerning the endangered species of plants.